But this is the optimism curve. Okay, so if you haven't seen the optimism curve before, one thing to kind of keep in mind is that the optimism curve essentially is actually something that you personally have experienced every single time that you do something new in your entire life. Okay, so every single time that you've ever done anything new, you have always experienced the optimism curve. You just don't know it yet, right? And so every single thing that you ever will start in your life starts off the same way. It always starts off as uninformed optimism. Okay, so maybe from your last, let's say it was your last sales job, right, at the last company, you should. Let's say it was there, right? Oh, I can be 1099. Oh, I can build residuals. Oh, I can be self-employed, whatever, right? And then you very quickly realize, oh my God, this is even more strict than a salary job because they literally will yell at me if I take more than an hour break. Oh my God, I have to wear a suit and tie every day. Oh my God, the residuals don't last at all. Oh my God, like I'm working for bonuses and not building anything, right? I'm not actually building a business because I don't own shit, right? So that is uninformed optimism, where you first start off really excited about it all, but then very quickly you hit informed pessimism, like I just mentioned. Informed pessimism, right? So now you're like, oh shit, this is harder than I thought, right? Same thing with a salary job. Oh my gosh, it's stable income. Oh my gosh, I get, I leave at 5 o'clock and I get the evenings free. But then you realize my income's capped. I can only get to a certain point. I can only save my way to financial freedom, which doesn't work. Oh my God, like I'm never going to go anywhere in life, right? There's so many things that you start with uninformed optimism, very excited about the opportunity, and then quickly you get into informed pessimism. And by the way, this is also small things too. So so many people will start a new software. Let's say, like we just started a new dialer called Simbo. And there was one called Kixie. Actually, I'll just do the Kixie analogy. So we started this software called Kixie. And then when we went over to this new team, I introduced Kixie, right, to everybody. And it was crazy. The amount of people that signed up, they were like super excited about it. And then their first week they canceled. And I went around and I was like, why? Why'd you guys all cancel? Like, I just wanted, it wasn't my team, so I don't really care, but I was just kind of like, why? And they're like, oh, we couldn't figure it out. It's like, why wouldn't you ask the guy that introduced all of you guys to it how to set it up? Because clearly it works for us. Right? So if it works for somebody else, like why would you assume it doesn't work for you? And it's because they went into informed pessimism and didn't realize that like this applies to every little thing that you do as well, not just big things. Every single thing has the exact same optimism curve of knowledge, right? Of getting to understanding and getting to mastery. So you head to informed pessimism, and then you get to the valley of despair. Okay? So the valley of despair is essentially the time period where you know how hard it is, but you don't know how to get out of it, right? And so in this period of time, honestly, this is where faith matters. Now you could say that, it's about the Christian faith, or you could say, religion, or, what I'm saying? Like you could say that, or you also, what I'm also just referring to as well is just faith in your wings, right? So when a bird lands on a branch, it's not that they're thinking the branch is secure enough to hold them. It's that the bird trusts its wings so that if the branch breaks, that it can fly, right? And so I trust myself because I've shown myself through evidence, right? Not just shouting affirmations in the mirror, but through evidence that through hard times, that I have persevered through them, right? I have figured it out on my way through. So this will be no different, right? I will figure it out. And of course, if it works for other people, then of course it's going to work for me, right? And so that's where a lot of the times people, at the end of the day, they have so many feelings and emotions about the situation that they end up quitting, right? And if you want to be average, by the way, just if you're like, I'm going to come in here and I want to learn what the average production is. I want to learn what the average agent makes. I want to learn average. Just so you know, 98.7% of most insurance brokers quit within the first year. So you want to be average? That's average, right? But at the end of the day, the valley of despair right here is this moment in time where people just quit, right? They quit because, of course, it just gets too hard, right? And so, of course, though, this is everything you do. And so if you want to get out of this, well, first off, I'll just say this. Eventually, you get to informed optimism, right? So eventually, you get to this point where you are not quite necessarily masterful yet. You're not able to like relax, but you are able to take a breath, right? Your head becomes above water. You're able to see clear. And essentially, you can actually see the path upwards, right? You can see the staircase to the top of the mountain. You just got to now start climbing, right? And so it's that light at the end of the tunnel, and then eventually you hit mastery, right? And I will say, in life, as far as like big topics go, you really only have 3, 4, 5 at-bats at most of mastery in big concepts in life. And so you really just want to make sure that before you get into the optimism curve that, this is something that because of the why and the what and the how to get there that we've been talking about, that this is going to be the optimism curve that you're going to choose. Because all of them, and I mean all of them, follow the same exact pattern, right? And so here, you're going to have this uninformed optimism, right? Oh my gosh, I'm my own broker. Oh my gosh, I have all these carriers, meaning I can sell to different carriers if someone gets denied, and no one ever should get denied. And then it's like, oh, okay, well then, and I get daily pay commissions and all this stuff, right? And then you go to informed pessimism. It's like, oh shit, I got to learn multiple carriers. I have to learn multiple applications. I have to be able to pivot between multiple carriers and copy and paste quickly so that it's set up. Like at the end of the day, that informed pessimism, right, is going to kick in. It's going to happen. And there's a lot of other little things, right? And so now this is the most important aspect of the entire optimism curve here. And that is, first off, when you get to the valley of despair, just remember that if you're like most, you're going to quit, and then you're going to start over the optimism curve all over again, right? And then you're like, okay, well, this time around, it'll be different, right? But the other thing to kind of keep in mind, though, of course, is that if you want to make it through the valley of despair, okay? So how do I make it through the valley of despair, Zach? So 2 things to make it through the valley of despair. One is to remind yourself that this is a prerequisite to success. Okay, so if I took a hammer and I started hitting you on the hand with it, you'd be like, what the hell, Zach, that hurts. But if I told you, hey, me hitting you on the hammer, right, and putting it and hitting you on the hand with it is going to give you 10 pounds of muscle every week that I do it, all of a sudden, now that hammer and the pain that associates with it is actually going to become purposeful, right? And yet for some reason, we just think that we should be able to skip this value to despair. But I just said earlier, right, if you don't have the ability to lean on your ability to work hard, which itself is a skill and is growable, and you're not able to lean on that, you eventually will get to a point where maybe you have some skill and you make some money, but you will rely on your skill. And when that doesn't work, you go through a slump, the lead vendor goes south, whatever it is, a carrier goes weird, whatever. Then at the end of the day, you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail and you're going to fail miserably because you're going to have higher stakes, whether that's chargebacks or whether that's, whatever it is. Like there's just a million things that could go wrong. But if I look at the value of despair here and I say, hey, since this is a prerequisite, I'm going to look at this as my rocky cutscene, right? I'm going to look at this as this period of time where for everybody else, it's going to look like, they're an overnight success. But for me, I'm going to actually be this monk mode, this quiet. I'm going to just focus on getting through this and trying to learn and grow from it as much as humanly possible, because this right here is the moment that I need to have in time before I can get to it. Now, when I say moment, that might be 1 month, that might be 3 months, that might be 6 months, that might be a year. And some people will say, well, Zach, I'm not going to be in the value of despair for a whole year. That's ridiculous. I'm not doing this then. And I wouldn't want to be in the value of despair for a year either. And so this is the way out, right? Just like physics, if we start to feel this informed pessimism feeling, there needs to be a reminder in your head of this video where we just talked about this, that you are now heading for the value of despair. And so just like in physics, there's two ways to go down this. I can either, one, begrudgingly go down it, right? Just very kind of like, oh man, this is hard and it keeps getting harder, and oh man, this keeps getting harder, and oh, so what was me, negative, 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 negative. Or get sadistic about this, right? Get masochistic about this and sprint at it, right? Run at it and get excited about the fact that this is really hard. Get excited about the fact that you're going to grow and push yourself and adapt and change and become a better person. Because newsflash, if you're not a millionaire right now, you don't deserve to be. That's it. You either lack the scale, you lack the systems, you lack the character traits, you lack the personality, you lack the perseverance, whatever it is, you lack something that is keeping you from being a millionaire. And so until you can figure out what that thing is, and the way you find out is here, then you won't be one. Because if I were God and I wanted to make a person more patient, I wouldn't just give them patience, right? Because of course that's going to be great. I'll just, hey, you're a patient person. But as soon as something impatient, right? Somebody tests their patience, they're going to lose it. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to give them trials so that they have patience. I'm going to give them perseverance by giving them bosses that are challenging, right? I'm going to give them teams that are going to push them. I'm going to give them an environment that's going to pressurize them. And that is how I'm going to make those diamonds. That's how I'm going to make those character traits and those fruit of the spirit that is going to allow that person to get to the point to be able to wield this big ass sword that is $100K a month. And so I just want to make sure I iterate this to you guys that at the end of the day, once it comes, and it will come, if you look at this and you look at it negatively, I promise you, you're going to stay in the valley of despair much, much longer than if you sprint at it. And you try to say, okay, what's next? What more can I do? What more can I learn? How can I get better? And push and push and push through that. And here's the cool part about it. Just like a momentum, right? Eventually you're going to get hit informed optimism and eventually get hit mastery. And what happens, just like momentum, eventually you're no longer pushing anymore. You are now getting pulled. Right? At the end of the day, I promise you, when you wake up to your first $5,000 check deposited on a daily paycheck, not weekly, your first 5K daily paycheck, I promise you, I will not have to ask you to have to get on Discord and be on schedule, be on time. Promise, won't need to. You'll be on every single day, right? Once you see that first large check, whatever that number is, you will no longer have to be pushing. You will now get pulled. The problem is that so many people wait. They think if they just wait to get pulled, that they'll eventually get pulled. But that's not how it works. You push until you get pulled.